Were you live? Not yet.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Very nice to see you. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. But yeah, we usually just open our doors, as it were, a few minutes early just to say hello. So I'm Subhadramati, and I'm here in the London Buddhist Centre Shrine Room, our main shrine room. So very, very warm welcome to you. Do say hello in the chat box and maybe say where you're from, and especially say if it's your first time here to the London Buddhist Centre online. We're always very, very keen to welcome new people for the first time. And I'm here with Max and Claudio. They're the crew, so they'll tell me if anyone's saying hello. Anyone saying hello yet?
Yeah, Chloe from the Isle of Wight.
Oh,
Chloe.
yeah, Chloe was on the retreat. Hi, Chloe.
There was Sophie down from my land, just down the road.
Ah, Sophie down the road on my land. Hi, Sophie.
And then Natalie from Brighton.
Oh, good. Great. Natalie from Brighton.
Nina again from New York.
Oh, great. That was, yeah, been a real regular, Nina. Great to have people from New York.
Another close one, Joanna said from Poplar.
Okay. Hi, Joanna.
Kay from Pimlico.
Great. Okay.
And Stephen from Cambridge.
Hi, Stephen.
Paul Smith from Deal.
Okay. Hi, Paul.
Christian from Finland.
Oh, Christian from Finland. Great. It is. I mean, I always say it, but it's just one of the wonderful things about this online centre is, yeah, just how far we can reach in a way and what a sort of international community we can build. So, yeah, do say if you're here for the first time. If anybody's here for the first time, do give us a wave.
Yeah, we've got Julie as well from Hagelsham.
Julie? Yeah.
Julie, yeah.
Julie or Julie. Is anybody saying it's their first time?
No, we've not had anyone.
No brand new people yet. Well, that's fine as well. You're allowed to be old as well as new. Oh, look, this watch. Poor Claudio's watch, and it's a minute slow. So we actually are, we have officially now going to start. We have officially started in a way. So it's 7 o'clock. So yes, so very, very warm welcome to everyone. To our Wednesday class, our Wednesday online class. I'm Subhadramati, and I'm here in the large shrine room. In fact, this feels, it's like home from home to me to be in the large shrine room on a Wednesday night. I've been coming to this large shrine room I first came over 30 years ago, and I'm one of the regular teachers on a Wednesday night. When we're physically open, and so it's great to be here as part of this online class on a Wednesday night. So yeah, very, very warm welcome to you. And as I was saying earlier, I'm here with Claudio and Max. They're the crew for this evening. And actually, we all live here at the Buddhist Centre. There's 3 Buddhist communities here at the Buddhist Centre, and I live in one of them, and Claudio and Max live in another one of them. So that's yeah, that's great, because it means we've been able to continue giving you these classes from the centre and welcoming you. So I wonder how many people we've got with us just now.
59.
59 people. Okay, that's lovely, isn't it? So very, very warm welcome. So if we were physically here all together, the shrine room would be getting pretty crowded by now. So really, really lovely to see you. So this is an hour-long class. We'll be finishing at 8 o'clock. And what the format is I want to talk for a little bit, and then we're going to meditate. And if you've never meditated before, if you're quite new to meditation, then that's fine, because I'll be guiding you through. And then there'll be a chance for questions and answers, hopefully from me, or at least some responses. So as I'm speaking, do think of any questions that you've got, things you want me to fill out more, things you don't agree with, and then you can just bring them in as questions. And then we'll finish with another short meditation, and I'll also be telling you about, other events at the centre. So that's the format. So the subject tonight is love. And the title of this evening, actually, I asked Sanjay, who's another one of the regulars on the crew, I said, what should I talk about this Wednesday? And he said, what about talking about the biggest mistake everybody makes about love. And I thought, well, that's great. I'd love to talk about that. So that was the title. And that's what, so, whenever you've got a title like that, you're mulling it over. And yeah, what is the biggest mistake we all make about love? And as I thought about it, I think we make more than one mistake about love, actually. And I came up in my mind with at least 3 big mistakes that we all make about love. And so I was mulling this over, and then I was just having supper in the community upstairs this evening, in my community. And they said, oh, what are you teaching about? And I was telling them, and I said, oh, the only thing is I think I might have got it wrong, because what I want to talk about tonight when I'm talking about love is the biggest mistake we make in sort of being a loving person. And I suddenly thought, oh, maybe you've all come because you want to find out how to be loved, how to get love rather than be loving. And as I was saying that, one of our community members, Polly, quick as a flash, Polly said, that's the first mistake. So maybe that's the very first mistake, that when we think about love, we often think about how we're going to get love, rather than thinking about, well, how are we going to give love? Yeah, if you were all here in the class, I'd be asking you whether that's the way you tend to think about love. But that's often how we think about how we're going to get love rather than how we're going to give love. Hopefully, by the end of the class, we might see that they're not so different in the end. I remember, I wish I had the source of it. I remember I read a little short story, a little allegorical story once. And it was all about, somebody was granted a wish, as you do in stories. And it was a woman who was about to have a baby was granted a wish. She was granted anything she wished for that baby would come true. And she wished that her baby would always be loved. Which you can imagine that would be a really good wish to wish your baby. But interesting enough, when it unfolded, when this boy, as it happened, was born and became somebody who everybody loved, it all went terribly wrong, because no matter how badly behaved he was, no matter how decadent he was even, like, people just kept loving him and kept loving him. And he became more and more of a sort of dissolute sort of character. And things just got worse and worse. He became, just kind of went to the bad, as it were, more and more. And then the mother realized, oh, I made the wrong wish. I shouldn't have wished that he was always loved. I should have wished that he was always somebody who would give love. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. That's what I'm going to talk about. Ourselves as beings who can give love. It's a bit of a clumsy way of saying it, give love, isn't it? But anyway, never mind. That's a bit. It's not exactly something we give like a commodity, but ourselves as loving beings. But what mistakes we make in that. So I think the first mistake we make about love is that we think it's a feeling, or at least we think that it's exclusively a feeling. Whereas actually, I think if it really is love, then it will always express itself in action, even if that action is action of mind. In Buddhism, we talk about what we do with our mind when we consciously do that as an action. So if it really is love, it will express itself in action. It will tend towards action. And I think that's quite important to remember for 2 reasons. One is because if we think it's a feeling exclusively, then if we haven't got that feeling, we'll think we haven't got any love. Whereas we can always act. And the little story I tell in this context, probably dangerous to tell stories about your family online because they might be listening in. But anyway, the story I tell is this little story about my nephew. I'm sure now he's 16 and a half, he's outgrown such behaviour. But when he was 15, he used to tend to, of a Saturday afternoon, sometimes go and hang around in shopping centres and drink cider with his friends. Anyway, he'd done this one of these afternoons. I was staying with them at the time, with his parents, my sister, and her partner. And anyway, he came home rather merry from the cider drinking escapade, and then he took a shower, and we were all watching a movie. And first we could hear him singing in the shower, which we thought was quite sweet. But after a while, we could still hear the shower going, but we couldn't hear anything anymore. And my sister's like, oh God, better go up and check. So they went up, checked, got in the door somehow. And there he was, not harmed in any way, but lying asleep in the shower tray with the shower still showering on him. So that wasn't very good anyway. They got him out of the shower, got him into bed. But then the thing I noticed was that every 20 minutes for the whole rest of the evening, either his mum or dad went up and checked on him. I'm sure any of you who are parents would do the same. And what I thought was, oh, that's love in action. Because I didn't ask them, but I bet you they weren't actually feeling that loving at that time. I bet you they were feeling like even a bit annoyed, even a bit exasperated, maybe slightly concerned, but they probably weren't feeling a great kind of rush of sentiment towards him. But still, they did that action. Of course they would, So then I thought, oh yes, that is love in action. So love isn't exclusively a feeling. And as I say, why that's important is not just to rely on it as a feeling, because then we could easily think, if we don't have that feeling, we haven't got any love. I think the other extreme is when we just have the feeling and don't have any action. Then I think, we're getting maybe dangerously close to something that's more like sentiment, yeah? I think if it is love, there will be action involved. So I think that's the first mistake, if you like, that we make about love. We think that we identify with a feeling, and then we think we haven't got it because we haven't got the feeling. I think the second mistake that we make is we think that we have to feel good to activate it. And I think that's a mistake as well. And I think the reason why that's a mistake is, well, actually, it makes us a bit passive, really. I mean, basically, feelings come and go. Feelings come and go, don't they? Sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we feel all sorts. If we wait until we're feeling happy to activate love, well, one, we might be waiting a long time. But also more deep than that, we're sort of making, it's kind of connected with the first point, we're kind of making a mistake because we're sort of identifying too strongly with feeling. Whereas if we think of it as an action, well, we can always be friendly, we can always be loving. No matter how we're feeling, that's always a possibility. Even if we're feeling, pretty low or pretty wretched, there's always a step into friendliness, into love that we can take. That's always available to us. We can always reach out in some way, even if we don't feel like it. In fact, you might say that it's even better to be loving when we don't feel like it, because it sort of lifts us out of ourselves. When we don't feel so good, we can tend to close in on ourselves, and that can just spiral down and down and down. Whereas if we act in a friendly way, even a loving way, it starts to be more of a movement out rather than a sort of spiraling in. And I think even more deeply than that again, when we act in a kind way, in a loving way, in a friendly way, every time we do that, it changes us. Our consciousness is modified. It changes us. We become more of a loving person. For For a Buddha, we've got this rather grand, glorious symbol of the Buddha on the shrine. For a Buddha, friendliness, kindness, love is second nature. So a Buddha doesn't have to think about being kind. A Buddha doesn't have to think about being friendly, about being compassionate, about loving. It's completely second nature, sort of by definition, because a Buddha is an enlightened being, not a god or anything like that, a being who through their own efforts have become enlightened. But enlightenment, by definition, consists in seeing through the sort of barriers that we usually put up between ourselves and other people. A Buddha is someone who's completely seen through that. A Buddha is someone for whom, you know, your happiness is important as their happiness. In a way, your happiness, their happiness consists in your happiness. That's what an enlightened being is, someone whose happiness consists in the other people's happiness, or at least the attempt to bring about other people's happiness. So that's what I mean when I say that love is second nature for a Buddha. Presumably we're not enlightened. I'm certainly not. So as long as we're not enlightened, we can move more towards enlightenment. We can enlighten ourselves more by acting in a loving way, even when we don't feel like it. Even when we don't feel like it. And that'll gradually start to change us into a person for whom loving is second nature. Loving will become more and more second nature. It'll be less of a thing that we have to sort of try to do. At the beginning, we probably have to make an effort towards it, especially if we're not feeling great. But in the end, it will become second nature. So that's the second sort of mistake that we make, but we can unmake. Yeah. So first one is that we mistake love exclusively as a feeling. We identify exclusively as a feeling. Second mistake we make is we think, oh, we have to feel good to activate that. Now, the third one, this is a bit more controversial, and I hope we might have a debate about this later. So the third mistake that we make, and I think actually we especially do this if we're sort of spiritually type people, partly because I think what I'm about to say is often the sort of thing that you read on, I don't know, posters in vegan cafes or on mugs or something like that. So the mistake that we make is that we think we have to love ourselves before we can love anyone else. I think sometimes that's even a sort of quote that's attributed to the Buddha, but I'm sure the Buddha didn't say that. You know, sometimes I've even heard it talk about a bit like, I was going to say like on an aeroplane, but we've probably forgotten what it's like to be on an aeroplane. And back in the days when we went on aeroplanes and there was that announcement about tend to your own oxygen first. I think sometimes we can think love is like that, something we've got to tend to it within ourselves first before we can be loving towards other people. Something I read that stuck on my mind, I read it a number of years ago now, that stuck on my mind, turns that on its head, and it was from the poet John Burnside, Scottish poet, and it was from his memoirs. Now, he went through some very, very dark periods in his life, and he went through a whole period when he was in psychiatric hospital, very, very low, dark period in his life. And he said that he was told this quote when he was in there, yes, you have to learn to love yourself before you can love anyone else. And he said, basically he said he totally disagreed. He said he really disagreed. He said, what you need to do is you need to find something to love. I think he might have even said, even if it's just a plant, he said, you need to find something you can care for and give love to. And he said, because what we love in ourselves is ourselves loving. So that's lovely, isn't it? What we love in ourselves is ourselves loving. So again, upstairs at dinner half an hour ago, we were debating this, and again, Polly said, she said, "Oh yeah, that's true, Polly said. They said, because they said, oh yeah, I had an email to write today, and it was quite a difficult email, but I did it really well and really kindly to the person, and I loved myself after I did that." So Polly definitely agreed with that. Some others were debating the point a bit more, and what we came to is that it's a sort of, what you create is a positive feedback loop. Yeah, that it isn't one or the other. It isn't that you have to completely love yourself before you can love someone else, but actually there is an interactive thing. We love that lovingness in ourselves, and that means that we love ourselves more. Then that means that can flow out to others. So it's much more it's an interactive thing. So taking us right back to the beginning again, thinking about, well, what about those of you that have come, to this class thinking, well, what about, it's not so much that I want to sort of be a more loving person. What about me being loved? What about how do you get love in this life? Well, what I think if you do all these things, very simple things, well, simple to say, but hard to practice, that I've been talking about, remember that love has to express itself in action. Remember that you don't have to be feeling any particular way to activate that love. And remember that what we love in ourselves is ourselves loving. Then you become more and more of a person for whom loving is second nature. And actually, if you became that person, in a sense, you wouldn't need love from the outside. A Buddha, an enlightened being, in a sense, doesn't need, well, actually, not in a sense, a Buddha doesn't need love. A Buddha doesn't crave love because they don't crave anything. But paradoxically, everyone loved the Buddha. So it's the same for us. The more we can sort of be that loving person, the more we can be free of craving for love from outside ourselves. Paradoxically, the more people will love us. We've probably all experienced tastes of that. At times when we felt more free, more independent, more strong, that's the time when love comes to us. The times we felt more needy, more craving. It's a tragic irony, actually, isn't it? Then the very thing we want, we sort of drive it away. We create our worlds like that all the time. Loving makes us strong, and loving makes us, well, it makes us lovable, actually. So there's some thoughts about love. Just checking the time. There's some thoughts about love. I hope that they've stimulated some questions. We're not going to go into the questions right now because I want us to meditate first, and we're going to meditate on love. For those of you who know it, the metta bhavana. Metta is the Buddhist word for love. Bhavana means making to come to be, flourishing. So we're going to be doing a very ancient practice, the metta bhavana, the flourishing of love. So we'll meditate for about 15 minutes, and then there'll be a chance for any questions you've had on what I've said, or anything else about love, or anything else about anything to do with meditation or Buddhism. So do save your questions. Good. So now we're going to meditate. So actually, maybe I wonder, how could I find out if anyone's here for the first time? I probably can't now, but anyway, if some of you might be here for the first time. Yeah, a few people here for the first time. Good. That's excellent. So yeah, really warm welcome if you're here for the first time. And if you've never meditated before, that's fine, because I'm going to guide you through it. So the first thing is get sort of comfortable but upright. So if you're sort of in your armchair or sofa, if you've got easy access to something like a kitchen chair, you could swap onto that, or else sit sort of forward on your sofa so your feet are flat on the floor like that. Maybe put a cushion behind your back, your lower back, but try and sit in a way that's upright. If you're improvising at home with a chair or even with your sofa. Of course, you might have meditation cushions, so that's great. That's really the first principle of meditation, is how we sit. And how we sit wants to be, on the one hand, comfortable and relaxed, and at the same time, we want to be upright and alert. So give you a moment to do that. And then we're going to meditate, and we're going to have 3 stages of this meditation, and I'm going to simply guide us through when we get to them, yeah? So I won't say them before, we'll just, that'll give us more time to actually meditate. We'll all be meditating too. I can see the crew getting ready to meditate as well. I can see Claudio and Max getting ready to meditate. And yeah, although you're on your own in your room, perhaps, you can just think that actually you're meditating with quite a lot of other people. How many people have we got with us just now?
91.
So you can just think there's 91 people, us 3 as well, 94, all meditating together. So you might just want to connect with that in your imagination. So let's settle down. So closing our eyes, we're just going to dim the lights here. So you might want to, if it's possible for you to dim your screen a little bit, just so there's not a light shining on your eyes, even though you're going to be closing your eyes. A little creaking you might hear is just us dimming the lights. We've realised our shrine room is quite creaky. Now there's no one in it. We hear the creaks more. Good, so closing our eyes. Maybe just take a few deeper breaths. And then the very first thing to do is just connect with all the points of contact of your body with the floor and with the cushions or chair or whatever you're sitting on. And especially notice the quality of contact with your chair or cushions. So what I notice, for example, is whenever I've been talking, it means I always kind of raise myself up a bit, like as if I'm a bit braced to jump up off the cushions. Just with the slight excitement of talking. But very often we're like that, slightly braced, as if we're about to jump up. We sort of live a bit like that. So if you notice that, just seeing if you can get a sense of allowing your weight to drop down. Into the cushions or chair. You can't force that, but see if you can get a sense of it. So see if you can get a sense of the whole base of your posture just settling. And from that stable base, the rest of your torso is rising up. So your spine rising up in its own natural curves. Head just poised and balanced. Now just see if you can soften your face a little bit more. See if you can soften your hands a little bit more. And now just bring to mind something generous or kind that you've done recently in relation to someone else. Doesn't matter how small. Just notice the effect of bringing that to mind. Notice how you feel in your body when you bring that to mind. and how you feel about yourself. And how you feel in relation to the world at large. So just dwelling with that for a few moments. And now bringing to mind a good friend. Trying to get as vivid a sense of them or a picture of them. And again, just notice the effect of bringing your good friend to mind. And then wishing your friend well. May they be happy. May they be well. May they flourish. And now starting to extend that well-wishing to more people. Extending that well-wishing to people you live with or the people in your building. And in your street, neighborhood. all of us meditating together, different parts of the world. Including more and more beings in this well-wishing. And then gradually, in your own time, opening your eyes and bringing the meditation to a close. Good, everyone. Well done. Good. Claudia, could you just pass me a tissue? Good. Just been passed a tissue. Thank you, Claudia. Good. So yeah, really well done, everyone. Good. Good. So that was a shortened version of an ancient practice called the Metta Bhavana, practice of loving kindness. So that's the whole theme of the evening, is love. And now is a chance for you to ask questions about anything I've said, ask me to elaborate on anything I've said, or if you want to, you can ask other questions about meditation. But let's see if there's any on the subject of love. And Max, you can write questions in the chat box, and then Max will give them to me. Anybody got any questions yet? Okay. Good. Sometimes it takes a minute to gather your thoughts.
Lots of appreciation for the meditation.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's a great practice, the Metta Bhavana. Yeah, and lovely to do it all together.
So, Karanavajra has said, could you talk about the difference between pity and compassion?
Karanavajra, hello. Yes, I could do that. I might just hold that one. I can talk about the difference between pity and compassion, but let's just see if we've got anything more directly on what I've said, Karanavajra. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, so Mercia is asking about the Metta Bhavana and saying if she feels it's difficult to direct love to herself, should she go ahead and direct it to others anyway?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll just repeat the question about, so the Metta Bhavana starts with, traditionally starts with directing love, metta, towards ourselves. I sort of varied that a little bit just now, didn't I? I said, bring to mind something that you've done that you felt yeah, that was kind or generous in relation to someone else, to see how, well, what that was like. Shame there's no time. This is hard to do an actual dialogue, but I wonder if connecting with something kind or generous that you did, Mercy or anyone, had an effect, actually. Because if it did, then that is meta. I think I'm not directly answering your question yet, and I will, but I think sometimes we think that metta or love towards ourselves is something else over here, where it can be as simple as appreciating something kind or generous that you did. It can be as simple as, a time where you felt moved or grateful. That can all be sort of part of the first stage of the practice, which might include, if you really feel that that's not available to you, I think by all means then bring a friend to mind and wish them well. But see then if that thing John Burnside said was true, do you then start to tune into that thing he said about what we love in ourselves is ourselves loving? So try and create it then as a sort of feedback loop. And try and see they're not so separate as we think, like loving other people and loving ourselves isn't so separate as we imagine. We make them into two things, but actually they're just as love. Another completely different way of thinking about it, which I could bring in, is we could think, well, there just is love, and what we're doing is we're tuning into it, a bit like you might tune into a radio station or something. And then it doesn't matter so much about who the love is for. It's just love that we are sort of cooperating with, as if it's a force that we're cooperating with. So that's quite a long answer to a question, but it's a very, very good question. And in a way, do what works. Yeah, do what works. Yeah. Good. Any more?
Yeah. Loads. Laurie's asking about anger and how we can work with that in the metta bhavana and transform it into love.
Okay, so is that Laurie asking about anger? Okay, so so that's really, really good. Yeah, we want to transform anger, and transform is the actual operative word. So in Buddhism, we talk about transforming, rather than trying to get rid of something or trying to like push it away, because anger is energy. It can easily tip into hatred, which isn't so good, isn't so positive. So it is good to sort of harness that energy. So if I was sitting to meditate and I felt annoyed or irritable or even angry or even in a rage, what I'd probably do is I wouldn't try and go straight to love. What I would do as an intermediary is I trying to cultivate patience, including patience towards myself. So I might just say to myself, okay, Subhadramati, you're really, really annoyed, but that's great. You're actually meditating and trying to work with it. So I think patience is a very good next step from anger, and also patience with the person or situation that you're feeling angry with. Try and cultivate patience for that, which includes understanding of that. So yeah, I think trying to transform anger with patience always feels like a realistic step. And then out of patience, love can grow. In a way, patience includes love. But yeah, I think it's possibly too big a step for most of us to go from like blazing anger to blazing love. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful.
Gaghani has said what we can do when for the people that are either dead or out of reach. So she said sometimes actioning love can be impossible for these types of people. how can we still make something positive?
Okay. So how do we love people if they're out of reach physically or if they've died? So I think here is where it's really important to remember that actions include actions of mind. And I think that's particularly important when we're physically distant from many people that we love at the moment. Of course, we can still do some actions like, writing to them, phoning them, and so on. They're outward actions, but actually the action of wishing them well in a practice like the Metta Bhavana is an action. And I think actually this situation gives us an opportunity to understand something more deeply about the nature of love and actually the nature of life, which is that connections between ourselves and other people are far deeper than physical connection. Yeah. There's something that's more enduring than just being physically proximate to somebody. In other words, although we might miss that, I think it's quite good if we learn not to sort of rely on physical proximity and think, sort of identify connection with that, because connection goes like much, much deeper and further than that, so that we can connect with people who are physically apart. And we realize that even we will all be separated by death at some point, that actually love can transcend that. And it will transcend it if we think of it as an action. We can still wish well to people who've died. I still wish well to my father who's died. Maybe wish well isn't quite the right way of putting it. I still actively cultivate gratitude towards him, which is a well-wishing. I can't well-wishing. I was, because I don't quite know where he is or how he is, but it still feels very, very important to me to talk to him in my mind and just say, oh, thanks, Dad, for everything you gave me. And I feel that our connection in a funny way is alive, in a funny way, even more alive than it was when he was alive. Yeah. So I think that's very, very important. So wishing someone well is an action. If we can follow that up with actions of speech and, physical actions, well, that's great, but we might not always be able to. Good.
We've got a couple of questions in the area of romantic love.
Oh, yeah.
And people asking us to comment about discontent, and also if you feel like you don't have romantic love in your life, there's pressure from society to have it. So could you comment a bit on how to deal with that? Okay,
so I think I understand the questions. The question is, what if you want a lover and you haven't got one? Is that the question?
I think so.
Okay. So, well, I don't know how. I'm just trying to think how to. Okay, so what are you going to do in that situation? So, there's a few things I want to say. In a sense, it's like Buddhism isn't saying it's wrong to want that. But then if we want something we've not got, then yeah, that will tend to make us discontented. So what we can do is we can try and actively cultivate stillness, simplicity, and contentment, which isn't passivity. So we can try and actively cultivate beauty, cultivate love in other ways. So what we're trying to do is enrich ourselves as a person, so that we're not looking for another person to sort of fill a gap within us. You see, if that's why we want a romantic partner, I hate to tell you this, but then it's not going to work, because even when we get them, if we're trying to get them to kind of fill some sort of gap in ourselves, it won't work in the end, because then we sort of need them too much in the wrong way. So the more we can cultivate contentment, then the more when we do meet somebody, then actually, paradoxically, the more likely that is to have a happy outcome. So maybe I could say, use the opportunity of longing for love to cultivate contentment. And that means, I think it means feeling the longing quite deeply. Allow oneself to feel that longing, but not fixate on that it's got to be a certain solution to fill the longing. If you see what I mean, feel the longing. It actually can be quite beautiful in a way to feel the longing, but try and withdraw that from the story of what's going to satisfy that, and also connect with beauty. Yeah.
Sandy has said, is there any chance that metta could help us with focus and concentration on what we're doing in our daily life?
That's an interesting question. Who answered that question? Sandu. So will metta, does love help us to focus? I think that's a very good question. I've not been asked that before, but I think it's exactly true that in a way, without love, we can't focus in a way. Without love, then focus is just going to be like, I don't know, like swatting for an exam or something. Love is the very thing that will bring about focus. If we love something or somebody, we don't even have to try to focus on it, do we? The more we love it, the more the focus will just come naturally. Like if I love a poem that I'm reading, I'm naturally concentrated on it. I don't have to make myself concentrated. So they go, in a way, they go hand in hand. Mindfulness and metta go hand in hand. The more attention we pay to somebody or something, the right sort of attention, sort of the attention that sees them not as an object to fulfill us, but as a being in their own right, then love grows out of that. And the more we love somebody or something, the more naturally attentive to them we'll be. If we really love someone, we'll start to notice their wishes, more and more, and want to fulfill them. So that's a very, very good question. Okay, maybe I'll return. Maybe that ties in with the question from Karen Avadra about what's the difference between compassion and pity. There's sort of pity is often called the near enemy of compassion, which is a good notion. The notion of a near enemy means something that sort of masquerades as the real thing, as it were. So what shall I say about this? So what is compassion? Well, compassion is love when it encounters suffering. That's probably the best way to say it. If one has a heart full of love and then one encounters somebody who's suffering, you meet somebody who's suffering, then that love sort of naturally becomes compassion. In a certain sense, and the tradition says this, well, you don't try, compassion isn't something that you try and generate, as it were. Compassion is just what happens when a heart full of love, full of metta, encounters a being who's suffering. Compassion naturally arises. So I think one way of talking about the difference between compassion and its near enemy pity is compassion's always about the other person. Compassion's always a response to another person's suffering. Pity, although it might feel a bit like compassion, it's kind of more about yourself. It's more about, it's more about, well, there's a me in here who's kind of feeling sorry for kind of you poor creature down there. So it's got much more self-consciousness in it, pity. And yeah, it's not actually responding to the other person. It's sort of your idea of the other person. It's your idea of something. Pity is your idea of something, whereas compassion is something much more natural that flows towards the other person. So I think that's a really good question, Karen Avadra, a very important one, isn't it? Because they can sort of masquerade. One can masquerade as the other. But what we're trying to do is separate them out. I mean, this side of enlightenment, we're always going to have mixed emotions, mixed motives. So Another bit of me wants to say, don't worry about it too much either, as long as you've got some outgoing aspect in your practice, you won't go wrong. Okay, good. So I forgot that Claudia's watches. What is it, fast or slow? I can't remember now. Add 1 more minute. Oh goodness, I've got to add a minute, so we're nearly at the end. Yeah. Okay, so I want to end with just a moment of quiet sitting, but I want to say 2 things before that. So one is to talk to you about the Life with Full Attention course. So that's starting next week. So this is a great course to do. Any course is great to do because it means you get cumulative teaching. It's 8 sessions over 4 weeks, and it starts next Tuesday morning. And that course is bookable. There's we're asking for a donation for the course, and you have to book it because the numbers are limited, and it's already booking like wildfire. So book on that. Are you able to post a link for that, guys? Yes, we're posting the link to book on that. Really, really recommend that course. And then, as always, I just want to talk about the culture of the centre here being one of generosity, where we're all trying to just share our own inspiration about meditation, about Buddhism. We want to do that as freely as possible. We offer all our classes, all these drop-in classes for free. At the same time, we could really do with some money just now to help us to keep being able to offer more and more. Anything we're given will just mean we're able to reach more and more people and give meditation and the Dharma to more and more people. So, really encourage you if you're able to contribute to that, to contribute to this culture of generosity, this culture of growth and flourishing ourselves as human beings. And if you can give a monthly gift, that's really the best of all, because that helps us plan at this time. But anything at all is really more than welcome. And as I say, will help us just keep reaching out more and more. So I think we're just posting that link as well. Good. And let's just end with just a moment of just sitting quietly together. So we can just close our eyes once more. Just feel our breath in our body. Connect with our heart. Good. Okay, good everyone. So very, very lovely to spend part of the evening with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Maybe after meditating, just try and have a quiet rest of the evening. You could even maybe not go online for the rest of the evening. Maybe go for an evening walk or have a quiet evening if you can. So what we're going to do is we'll just leave you looking at the shrine for a few minutes. And I think what I'm going to ask maybe Claudio to do is just come and extinguish the candles, and then we will that'll be the end of our evening when the last candle goes out. Yeah. So maybe one of you can just extinguish the candles, and then everybody else can just watch those candles being extinguished, and then that'll be the end of our evening.